everyone. So this is going to be a monumental video for me if I do say myself. But I have finished Wheel of Time. I cannot believe it. I finally finished it. I finished Memory of Light last night. I don't know what to do with myself now. Like, what do I do? How do I move on? So I actually started this. I looked at Goodreads. I started this back in 2021, the beginning of the year. So it's been a while. I actually had initially started before that. I think maybe back in 18, but I only made it to like book 5, and then I just kind of didn't want to read it anymore. And so back in 2021, I'm like, oh, I'll try this again. And so I'm like, you know what? Even if I'm bored with it, I'm still just going to be committed and I'm going to get through it. And so it took, the 3 years, but I did it. Yay. I will say though, like last year, I think I maybe only read like 2 of the books because I was going through the slog. So I didn't consistently read the series. It seems a little dramatic that it took me 3 years, but I got through it. There was some rough books. The first 6 I think were really good, really entertaining. And then the last 3 were great. And the ones in between that, we're not going to talk about them. They were rough. They were really rough. I can see why this series, a lot of people probably just kind of tamper off, don't want to finish, or, they just don't want to even start it because it is really intimidating. And there are some bad books. Like, they're just boring as anything I'll get out. So I can see why a lot of people don't want to just kind of push through that. Was it worth it? Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. This was great. I cannot get over it. Like, this was great. Was the slog about to make me, no longer want to read this? Yes. It really was. But was it worth it to push through? Yes. Now I have like this. So like since I've been reading this for about 3 years now, it's always been, so I usually I'll try. For a while there I wasn't because they're so boring, but I try to at least do even just a chapter a day, just something. So I was just still reading it and keeping up with it because there's a lot of characters, a lot of places just to remember. So I wanted to try to keep up with it. And so even just a chapter a day at night, usually this was my nighttime reading. And now I don't know what to do. Now it's like a hole in my life. Like, what do I do at night now? What other book is going to fill this void? This was just so good. It was so good. Okay, but talking about the series though as a whole, my main complaint, and I've noticed this through pretty much all the books, but the women are written pretty bad. Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine, those 3, they really tested me at times. They were pretty bad in a lot of scenes and a lot of books, and it was just this. And just the women in general, especially the Aes Sedai, like they would just. There was a lot of expressions of, they smoothed their skirts or they sniffed in the air, like things like that, like just real weird. And it was very repetitive. And that got to me after a while. So I got kind of tired of that. But I will say, though, all these characters grew a lot in the last, all the women characters pretty much. They grew a lot in the last 2 books. I don't know if a lot of that was just because of Sanderson joining in and maybe trying to give a little bit of a growth to them and a different voice while also keeping them the same. I think he did a great job with that. And I noticed the characters, especially Nynaeve, she grew a lot in the last 2 books. And I really liked her character. I think it turned into just a wonderful character. And Egwene in the last book, Memory of Light, she has some pretty epic scenes. So she redeemed herself in this one too. And Elaine, I tolerated her at the end. So that was, even the last 2 books, it was just kind of a meh, she's all right. But it wasn't the, it wasn't like I didn't like her as much as I did in the previous ones. So it was nice that it was just like, she's all right. And I do think a lot of that was probably Sanderson joining in, because he did keep the voice of the characters pretty well when he joined in, but you do notice some improvements like that. And I don't know if how much of that is just because the story is just transgressing on its own, but I do think he helped improve that. I will say that Sanderson's writing just like totally saved that series for me. The last 3 books, it felt like I was finally like breathing fresh air, like, oh, this just reads so smoothly. It was just so wonderful. I was finally loving the series again. Like, I loved the first couple books, and then through that slog, I just wanted to jump off a cliff. And then the last 3 books were just amazing. They were so good. So yeah, I just noticed my excitement. I just loved it. Now, I will say, though, a character I did notice that the voice was a little different, and I think that was probably Matt. I don't know if anyone else would maybe agree with this, but I felt as though his voice was a little different from the earlier books, and I do think Sanderson gave him a little bit of a different one. He felt, especially in the book before this, so book 13, he didn't even speak in the old tongue anymore. And in like all of that book, there was no reference to that. And he felt just more kind of dumbed down. And it was rough. I mean, his voice just wasn't as kind of cunning or just, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but it didn't feel like him in the other books. But in this book, that improved. You finally get some of the old language coming back through him, and also the reference when he is commanding the battle. You can definitely tell he has all that knowledge of the previous one. So you finally do get that back. But I did notice in book 13 that was lacking, and I felt it was noticeable, and I thought it kind of hurt his character a little bit. But in book 13, book 14, it definitely gets made up, because Matt has some pretty good scenes too. The best scenes, though, I do think probably Perrin. Perrin has some really great moments in this book, especially when he's in the wolf world or the dream world or telephonade, whatever you want to call it. He has some great scenes and some great fight scenes, and he does some really cool stuff. I loved it. So that was really cool. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I do want to try to like give you enough information to maybe help motivate you to either finish this or read it or whatever you want to do. But I don't want to spoil anything, because this whole thing is just such a journey, and I definitely recommend it. But the best part, though, is just the relationship between the Tavrins. So Matt, Rand, Perrin, it was just such a great relationship with those 3. Throughout the series, they're separated a lot. They were together in the beginning, but throughout the middle of the series, they are pretty much separated. They each have their own journeys and their own paths that they're taking. But they all are linked in some way, just because the pattern is linking them. And at some point, they are going to have to come together. They're going to have to work together. They're going to have to try to help each other. And because of that, they all stay loyal to each other. And that's such a cool, it's just a really cool concept that this book had. And I loved it. I thought this book captures it so well, because the 3 of them, I mean, they really do all save each other, essentially, and the loyalty is there. Even with Matt, as much as he doesn't want to, he is. Perrin is definitely all for being loyal. He's just like, yeah, I know this is who I am, what I have to do, I'm going to do it. Whereas Matt's constantly trying to run away. Like, I'm not getting in this fight, as he's right in the middle of it. That just tends to be him. But he'll do it anyways. As much as he's dragging his feet, kicking and screaming, he's still going to do it. But there's just some really great moments. And all the loose ends get wrapped up finally in this book too. Things that may not have even been mentioned for multiple books. They're finally getting brought up, finally getting resolved. There's so many wonderful, great moments. Oh my goodness. It's like throughout this entire book, it's just there's constant point of views being switched all the time. Probably every couple pages there's a new point of view. And you're just getting everyone and everything and all the different battlefronts. I mean, you get everything. All the characters you love, all the characters you don't, ones you may not even remember or have heard of, you're getting everything. And it's just so great. You get some great fighting scenes with Lan. You're getting some good ones with just the Aes Sedai, and then you have the Seachan, the Aiel. So you have so many great moments. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. There's a lot of chill-worthy moments, but then there's also some pretty sad deaths that occur. So it's not all happy and everything like that. You do have some hard moments. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I just want you to know that it's just not everyone comes in and saves the day and everything works out great, yay, which is good because that's not realistic. I know this whole book series isn't realistic, but I like the books to try to be as realistic to their world as possible, which does include probably some people dying. So that is included. And the ending itself. Some people may not like it, but I liked it. I thought it was fitting. I thought it worked out. And I think it worked. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Will you be disappointed? I don't know. Some people might, but I wasn't. I thought it was good. I just don't know how I'm gonna recover now after this series because it was so good. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what to do. I gotta figure something out. But yeah, there's just, oh man. I mainly just wanted this review just so you could see the internal struggle going on right now as I'm trying to just put how much I love this into words, and also just how I'm going to cope after reading this. But yeah, now I gotta figure out what to read next. What book is gonna follow up after this? I could reread a favorite. I don't know what I'll do. But yeah, so I'll find something. I gotta keep reading. I'm always gonna keep reading. But that, or I'll reread it again. I don't know if I'm ready for that. It was something. It was good, but I think I need a break. This was a lot. But yeah, so I hope maybe I've convinced you to either give this series a try, or if you are reading it, to continue to push through, because this last book was great. And be prepared to maybe try to binge read this for the next 24 hours when you do start it, if possible. Ideally. This whole thing's a battle. I mean, you don't even want to put it down. I was getting so frustrated with it because I'm just like, I just want to get past, to some scene where there's a break, but there's no break. It just keeps going. So that's probably my biggest complaint with this book alone. It's it was just constant fighting. And it's like, you want to just be like, I don't have this kind of time to just binge read, even though you almost need to. So be prepared for that. But it was really good. Oh, I love it. It was great. I'm so glad I read it. I feel like I just ran a marathon, even though I don't run. I don't do marathons. I don't run. So I wouldn't know. But that's how I feel. It was great. It was really great. So I recommend finishing it or giving it a try. It was definitely fun. But other than that, thank you for watching.